Welcome back. My name is James Grady, and we are the Four Storytellers, scratching deeper into the fabric of our lives to generate diverse stories and unique characters using our wildly individual and distinct voices. Hello, everybody. This is Del Shores,
Hello,
Gilder, Nancy J. Wrong direction because it's a mirror. How are you guys?
Hey, James. Hi. Wow, Nancy,
good.
what are you drinking tonight? You rushed off last time to get wine, so
a little New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh, you like my favorite wine in the whole world comes from Chile. I love Chilean cab red wine. Casalero del Diablo is amazing. I'm just gonna rep it out right there before we start the show.
You're going to put that in the book, aren't you?
I will 110%. It's an ode to my mother who got me hooked on Chilean wine. Any kind.
Nice. I'm Australian or New Zealand.
I'm drinking coffee
and men.
because I just need to be checked up.
Dale's like, I'm on my kick right now. Coffee it is. James, what are you drinking out of your interesting glass?
This is carved from stone, you know. So I'm drinking rum from a stone glass.
He has to upstage all of us every single time. I have my sad little tea in a mug. Good vibes. That's all he gets tonight.
if I had known that you would be using that glass, I could have done an earth tone thing too. But
you just know I like something hard to my lips.
We need to coordinate our glasses next time, right? Whatever we're drinking. Okay.
All right. What are we talking about besides hard to my lips, James Grady?
Well, we're scratching a little deeper. So, you know, I'm sure I could find a way of bringing that back in that would make Nancy blush. But we'll skip right over that this time and dig right in. It's so important to us that it's part of our mission statement, scratching deeper. So I thought it would be interesting for us to talk about what that concept means for us in terms of our individual work and how it has guided us personally, individually. And overall, you know, why it's part of our mission. So this particular formulation, scratching deeper, that comes from Del. So why don't we start with you, Del, and tell us a little bit about where this phrase comes from and why it's so important to you.
Well, it really started when I was teaching actors. And I would find that so many actors would come in and they learned their lines. They knew, you know, they had planned out, you know, I'm gonna drink this on the word that. They didn't know who they were. They didn't know where they were. They didn't know. And I always say, how did you get to here? How did you get to here? Because I don't need to know how you're going to go forward, because that's going to be, I'm going to find that out in just a second. I'm going to find that out as you travel. But how did you get to here? If you don't know how you got to here, I don't know how you got to here. And so I said, scratch deeper. What was their childhood like? What did they do right before this scene started? What are they thinking? What, you know, Sydney talked about it in another show. What's their sign? When is their birthday? Know your characters, know your world, and it just scratch deep until you know, if someone is screaming their head off at their husband and it seems wrong, like, why are you doing that? Well, what else happened that unleashed this rage? You know, so that's where it came from.
When it comes to writing or character building, if you're an actor, we get so caught up on the what. You know, what color is their hair? How tall are they? What gender are they? Who are they attracted to? Those kind of things. That we forget about the whys. Like, why is her hair blonde? You know, why is he attracted to this guy? Why, you know, is she crying right now in this moment? Those kind of things. And that's what the scratching deeper is. Because if you don't scratch deeper, then all you have is this surface. Nobody wants to experience, read, see surface. They want that stuff that's inside.
Well, there's one other way of saying it. What are the given circumstances of this character? What are all of their given circumstances?
Yep.
So we all know our childhoods. So you should, as a writer, you should know details about your characters, and they become richer and they become full. And as James said in another episode where we talked about the rookie mistakes, they're not superficial. They're not caricatures that way.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents.
That's why if you are planning to write a memoir or an autobiography, it's much easier because you kind of already know the people you're dealing with.
That's right.
I don't really have to. I mean, yes, I am digging deeper, Del. I am digging deeper, of course. But but it's a different dig. It's a little different dig. It's digging deeper into my memories versus having to make something up. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it absolutely makes sense. And Nancy, when I first started writing, I wrote, the first thing that kind of popped in my world was I played Daddy's Dying, Who's Got the Will? And everybody said, "Oh my God, those characters are so real. They're so evolved. They're so complete." Well, it was because it was my mother's family. I just stole them. That was easy. So as I went on, I realized, oh, yeah, I'm going to have to work,
I mean, who were the characters in our lives that we kind of got addicted to, that we fell in love with? It's because we take from the page the given circumstances and the digging deep that the author did that made the book and the characters so rich. And then we ourselves dig deeper. I mean, digging deeper is the reason that things like Wattpad and fan fiction were born.
What was the first thing you said?
Wattpad. It came after fan fiction. It's just another way for people to continue a story or write a scenario of their favorite characters from a book. That's pretty much what that is. I mean, the best example of fan fiction is 50 Shades of Grey that came from Twilight. But like, if you dig deep enough into these characters to allow your readers to develop an emotional attachment to them, then you're opening a whole world of a fan base of people, thirsting and wanting more information because you've opened a chasm, because you've dug deep enough that people can search further down, if we're going to be metaphorical, I guess, in our discussion today.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because I think a couple of us have touched on this idea that Nancy said specifically that it's easy to write a memoir because we know ourselves. And I want to challenge that because I think that may be true for us. I think it's part of what makes us enjoy writing is that we do naturally dig deeper. But I know a lot of people who don't know themselves at all. And maybe that's just me as a philosopher, the old Greek saying, know thyself. And the unexamined life is not worth living. Well, the fact of the matter is, if you lived by that, most people's life isn't worth living because people don't know themselves very well at all. Yeah. And I think that's part of what people like about fiction is that somebody has done the work for them of digging deeper into a character enough that they can get insights that they don't naturally get.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how writing helps make people better people in one sense. Is it helps us learn how to look deeper into people who look superficially not that interesting.
Yeah.
So if we know somebody that's not very interesting and that is not a very good person, we should tell them to read more. Is that what you're saying?
Well, more along the lines of if you find yourself bored by normal people, maybe it's because you're lazy, or you're intellectually lazy, and reading what a good author can do with an everyday character. My characters are normal people in the world that they're from. But the look into them that you get, I think, is a little more than you would get if you just met them in the grocery store.
Right.
Well, we never really ever know anyone. We don't know what happens behind closed doors. We don't know. I mean, even as deep as we can dig, we never really get to the bottom, do we?
Never. Yeah. But a lot of times we don't scratch. We don't scratch the surface at all. I look at this person and all I see is this person who makes me angry at the grocery store. I don't think, how often does her husband beat her?
Right.
I just think, what a bitch. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by thinking it can make you a better person, because if it makes you think, wait a second, like my favorite characters, there's a reason why she's acting that way.
That's right. Yeah, I love that. I mean, one of the exercises that we always do when someone new comes into our writing class is I tell a story about somebody that I've met that week or someone in my past. And then I have the entire class build the character.
We need to
Keep
do
building.
that sometime here.
Oh,
Let's
that'll
do
be
that.
fun.
do.
I haven't done
Oh,
that
that would
yet.
be-
I jumped in too late for me to get to do that exercise.
We'll do
You've
that
never
sometime.
seen the exercise?
No, you have never done that
Oh,
with me.
well, I'm telling you why, Sydney, because you walk those dogs and you come into class a little bit late, and I always start. I start it. So
apologize.
here's what I will do. I will make a class special for you where we build a character that makes sure that you are in there, or we'll do it here.
We should
'Cause
do
it's-
it here.
It's
Yeah.
so much fun.
Let's do it
That would
right?
be amazing.
I think that would be fun.
That would
But
be
it-
amazing.
But it's interesting about Dell, that process, but also the whole digging deeper, because I kind of think I've always done that as a journalist.
Mhm.
And I still, when I'm driving down the street or I'm in the car and I'm looking at houses or I'm in somewhere, all I think about is what is going on in that house. Is someone being beaten? Is someone making love? Is someone cooking dinner? Are there? I mean, I do that with. I just always that to me it would be so fascinating. But again, that gets back to my truths, I guess, as a reporter,
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's also Nancy, don't you? I feel like that it's this. We talked about the psychology of a character and understanding the psychology. When you scratch deeper, or as we say, dig deeper, scratch deeper, whatever. We have to. It's an understanding. It's a level of understanding these characters, and I always point to my play for me, where I had to really, really understand psychology, was The Trials and Tribulations of a Trailer Trash Housewife, which became the movie Blues for Willowdene with Beth Grant and Octavia Spencer and Dale Dickey. And I was inspired by an ex-boyfriend's sister who was in a very horrific domestic violence marriage, and she escaped it and became an activist. And I thought, I want to write about this. But you know what? I didn't understand the psychology. And so I had to pause that writing. I started the writing, and then I had to scratch deep, 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 deep into all the characters to understand it. And then the ending that I planned changed. A lot of the play became a real serious and important in my life and in many people's lives. So it's quite amazing what your characters can then dictate what your story will be when you scratch deeper.
Because like with scratching deeper, the end result is empathy, especially the ability. I mean, why do we read? If we read books without the intention of scratching deeper, they would be one sentences. Like you'd read a book and it would just be pigs take over farm as an example of dictatorship. That's all. And you'd be like, okay, great story. Goodbye. No, we read, we're drawn to books, or even, take it into the 21st century or the day of technology. We're drawn to stories told through developing empathy and interest in people. That's kind of, if we didn't have scratching deeper, if we didn't dig deep into whatever of a person, we wouldn't have nonfiction, we wouldn't have fiction, we wouldn't have anything. We wouldn't have art. That's what
I love that. I love what you just said, that word empathy. That is so important for us to feel what they're feeling and to understand them completely.
So James, how many pages do you have right now of your book, of your novel?
About 370 to 400.
Okay. So how much deeper can you dig?
I think at this point, I've dug about as deep as I'm going to go. I just have to let some things play out. And I think that's part of the really interesting thing about, like, once you've dug as deep as you can into a character without belaboring the point, and you put them into a box together, you have to see how they're going to play out, and play off of each other till the logical conclusion. And I think that's where I am now at this point, is now that I've understood my characters to a certain point, I want to see what is the natural outcome of putting these people in a box together.
And it's not just, digging deeper is not about expanding page count all the time. It's sometimes, think about, I mentioned this in another episode of ours, I love the book Carrie, but if you really, I mean, what he did is he scratched so deep into the abuse that this girl incurred that then caused her to create the telekinesis and to understand that psychology of Carrie. And it wasn't, it wasn't a long novel. It's like, it wasn't The Stand,
And I think with that, especially with that genre, with Carrie, because Stephen King scratched deep into the whys of Carrie, it made it real. That's what makes horror films or scary films or anything, the ones that are really good, that scratch deep into their characters or into their plot, was they like I said, empathy. They made them almost human. So for her, with Carrie and the story that she goes into, we as readers or as viewers, depending on how you watched or absorb the story, it's not unrealistic for us because Stephen King has set up us as audiences, as readers, to take in the story because he dug so deep that we develop a emotional attachment to her. It makes sense, why she goes on the things, or why she does the things she does, or why the things happen to her the way that they do, kind of thing.
Nancy, what are some of your favorite? Like, if you were to think, what is my favorite piece where the psychology, the characters were so deep? Do you have one like a favorite?
Like a novel?
A novel or movie or whatever, or play?
Well, one of my favorites. And it was a novel that turned into a movie, and they don't always turn into good movies, but it has to do with good writing, and that's Terms of Endearment. Larry McMurtry. His writing is amazing. Lonesome Dove. I mean, it's a thick book. It's a James-sized book. And it is, to read that book is just to me an experience. And then the series, the series that we got to watch.
Well, I tell you another one of his, because Larry McMurtry is one of my favorites as well, is The Last Picture Show. And Bogdanovich literally lifted dialogue right from there. I mean, I think of that scene with Ruth Poppers, with the Timothy Bottoms character, where he had just disposed of her. It was so heartbreaking.
Since you mentioned Les, I just need to mention this because this was one of these moments that I will treasure forever. Larry McMurtry in Archer City, Texas, where that movie was filmed. He had He had not even a bookstore. He had book barns. I mean, all these books. And one day I just drove through Texas all by myself in my best Del Shores feelings. And I drove over there, and I have all these books that I bought from there. I have some books that were written that were to Susan Sontag that I found there. There were all these fabulous, lovely, lovely books that I bought from Larry McMurtry's place, and it's now gone. He closed it down, and it meant the world to me.
But the town's still there, right?
Oh, the town's still there. Yeah, it's not much of a town, but it's just, it was. We need to all go sometime because
I was going to say, will you drive me over there when all this shit is over, where we could go out in public?
That'd be fun.
Why we can wear masks. We can socially distance, can't we?
Well, I'm not going to get on a plane for a little while till I have that vaccine.
But just there are moments like that have meant so much to me in terms of books. Mm-hmm. But Larry McMurtry and Last Picture Show and all his stuff. Yeah.
What about you, James? Do you have any?
So I was thinking about it from a little different perspective. As a person who studied a lot of philosophy, and I was a medievalist as well. I think.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Because I have images of you.
So I studied ancient and medieval texts and taught those, everything from Plato and Aristotle to Thomas Aquinas and Dante and things like that. And a character that I've always appreciated and I've written a little bit about myself is Satan. And Satan is an interesting character because he reappears in lots of different literature, and
Or in Match.com commercials.
Or in Match.com commercials, which I love. And the thing about it is how that character develops, right? The way that you dig into the background and the way that you understand the character of this figure, he can be a very different character in different presentations, right? Like, so in Dante's Inferno, it's just this horrible creature that's frozen in the depths of hell. And in Milton, he's a heroic, beautiful, tragic hero, and everything in between. And digging into the character and establishing the background, you can have on the one end of the spectrum, you can have this very stilted, evil character, and on the other hand, you can have this misunderstood, beautiful, beatific creature who merely took pride in his own existence, and from there everything follows. And so the way that we can dig in, we can take a character and we can take it in one direction or another, but even with the same background, we can build and we can give depth to it and we can dig into it. Yeah. So for me, it's more of a character. The way that this character develops in literature in different directions shows me the power of what we're talking about, right? By digging in and really showing the underlying psychology, we can transform characters from one-dimensional to 3 or 4-dimensional characters. And that brings me to a question that I wanted to ask all of you guys that's kind of related to something that Del said earlier, which is, tell me about an experience that you've had as a writer. And Sydney, in your limited experience, I know even that you have experienced this. Tell me about digging into a character that you've been writing and discovered that the character was very different than you thought they were going to be.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes. I'll take it. I mean, me with my fetus of concept of a book.
Metaphorical fetus.
Metaphorical fetus. Dear Jesus Christ, yes, a metaphorical fetus.
Well, there is a pandemic, so we're assuming nothing is going on. If you go by my life, it's like...
I didn't need a pandemic to stop me from that.
We're going to dig deeper on that one.
We're going to dig deep. This is the root of the conversation. No, me, of course, I'm a perfectionist. So when I first jumped into Del's class with this concept, I had an outline of all these characters. I had pictures. I had horoscopes. I had birthplace and birth year. And I had all of these things, these schematics of the characters built down. But then Del gave me the scratching deeper, and almost probably 75% of all the information changed, because when I scratched deeper, things didn't connect. Things didn't make sense. I was just building a person based on stats, and that's not how human beings are made at all. We're not made from data, and we're not made from, information. We are made from life and events and falls and getting back up again that build. And also, human beings are too complex for there to be one reaction to one instance every single time. So all of my characters changed the way that they react. And when I started really thinking about writing people individually, their own voices and their own reactions to things, instead of going with stereotypes of the way, a guy reacts or the way a girl reacts or a way a non-binary person reacts to a situation, then the digging just was like chasm. Because if one of my characters, Samson, who I love very much, he is a type A, get shit done kind of character. But then I had him doing something or reacting in a very emotional way to an instance in his life that I had no build up to. It made no sense. I just did it for plot purposes. So that's not true to Samson. That's not true to that character. The way he would react is entirely from a mental. This is where he leads his life, not right here. It's up here. And so when I dug deeper into him, I found a way for him to still get to that reaction, but it's through a psychological thing. And so that, with the way from base one of Samson all the way back, a few months ago to who he is now, completely different person. Because now what he wants makes sense because of
Dell, aren't you proud of her as your former student?
Yes, I was like,
As your former student, I mean,
wow.
I'm like,
I mean, she's gonna get an A. She's gonna get an A. I mean, well, for me, and I'll be brief about it, but when I wrote the play Southern Baptist Sissies, which was a very personal journey for me, I took the four sissies that were born in, or four gay boys that were raised in the Baptist church, and I really wanted them to all be so different. And I many times I've talked to all of you about, I don't believe in writer's block. I just don't feel like you've done your work. And if you start having writer's block, you have to go back and scratch a little deeper. And that was the lesson for me with Southern Baptist Sissies. I had to really understand their intelligence, their home life, how they reacted to the church, their personalities. And for me, the home life really unlocked those characters for me. And I remember Benny, the drag queen, when I scratched a little deeper and I realized that the church was very different for him because it was a babysitter for his family. They just dropped him off. And then so it was easier for him to leave the church and abandon it all and come out before anybody else did, and celebrate his gayness. But then scratching a little deeper, he still had PTSD from the rapture. So that really unlocked it for me when I really separated them and made them so distinct and their lives so distinct.
Well, mine is probably the easiest because I started out in this memoir just to try to get to know my father as I dug deeper into trunks and stuff that I hadn't opened after my parents died, and how I didn't ever know this man, even though my parents were married for over 70 years. But I only knew of him through what my mother said or just peripherally. So yes, I've changed I've changed my perception of me as a child and a teenager. So yes, I think that's it's a treat for me. Whether it goes any further than the four storytellers, it has changed my outlook on life in a good way.
I think it'd be very interesting because of you and James, with what you're writing comes from your own personal life, and because you're taking from there, but also you are writing a book, and so, or you're writing, etc. Things kind of have to make sense. You have to have a story beginning to end. I would be very interested to know what your relatives, the people you're writing about, if they were to read this, if they could, what would they say? They would be like, wow, I never thought of myself like that. And so, like, imagine if someone wrote a book about you. They dug deep into you based entirely on what they know about you. There might be some real hard truths that you don't want to accept about you.
So, James, have your perceptions of your family or the people you've been writing about as you turn this into fiction, have they changed?
It's interesting. Not really, actually, because there are so many fictional characters in the book. The digging that I had done about my family, I've been thinking about this book for about 20 years. And so much of the background of that development happened while some of these people were still alive, and just in my interrogating them in my head while they were around and watching them. And so that not so much. I think the characters in my book that have changed, that I've discovered more about, are the characters who are inspired by real people, but I didn't know. For those of you who hopefully will one day read the book, there's a character named Jim who shows up early on, and I had fully intended for him just to be a dick who showed up a couple of times and was an asshole. And when you read it, you'll see that this is not who he or his family was, and it was totally unintentional. But in figuring out why they were doing what they were doing and how they came to be there, my perceptions of them changed. And the characters that they are based on are part of the reason why those characters changed, because the one uncle that I kind of knew just wasn't a jerk. and he was kind of the inspiration for this character, and so I guess I don't know whether it was sentimentality or just it read wrong for me to be writing him in the direction that I was going, and I let reality correct the book.
Well, what I love about that is it balanced I mean, because you've got some pretty hard characters to look at.
Exactly.
I mean, and he is. Oh, I think he and that relationship, they're the heart and soul of your book. I just love him.
But what about the fact that we've got James, the author, writing a character named Jim? Oh, we have a word. Nope. Save it. Save that, because what I want to do some research on, especially as we're all we're telling our truths in many ways. Are they the truths? I mean, should we ever let the truth get in the way of a good story?
No.
Okay, let's stop it. Stop it. I need a refill.
I do have a question before we go. So we've discussed a lot about the importance of digging deeper and, the effects of it. But I guess we haven't really touched on how. Do you individually have a little way that you have found yourself doing over and over again with how you dig deeper? Because it's different for everybody.
So I'm gonna hop in because I was gonna tease this anyway, just to fly in the face of Nancy. I discovered, and I've written a lot that you guys don't know about and that you've never read under pen names, etc. And at a certain point when I was writing and I was very depressed, what I realized was every single character in my book, and it was a long book, were me. They were all me. And what I had done is I had taken like one little piece of my personality and I had made it the core of a character. And what I was doing was I was playing them on stage as if they were different people. And I think I still do that. I think even in this book, even with the people that I dislike so much and the people that scare me so much, at the core, there's a little piece of me that's running the character. And I think that's also part of why I understand them so much. Is because
nice.
Yeah. I love that. Oh wow, I think we need to stop on that because my head's ready to go. Pew.
All right, good stuff, y'all. Fun talking to you again. Shall we do it again?
I think we should.
No. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, totally, 100%.
Okay.
All right, guys. Next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Dig deeper.